Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Unlearn series. I'm your host, Omkar, and today we have Eugene, who has joined us all the way from the beautiful city of Budva in Montenegro. Eugene is a knowledge and a workplace productivity maestro, working in some of the biggest manufacturing and tech companies across the world. He is a seasoned productivity and a knowledge management expert with more than 17 years of experience in 7 industries and across 4 countries. His key strengths lie in enabling digital and cultural transformation in multinational organizations of all scales with a very interesting approach: strategy first, method second, and technology third. He is an expert in driving adoption of knowledge management and sharing platform. Eugene, welcome to this podcast and thank you so much for making out the time.
Hello, Omkar, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, perfect. So, just to get right off the bat, the topic for today, what we are going to be talking about for the next 15, 20 minutes or so, is that, a lot of times knowledge management, companies and managers are prone to doing some really big mistakes. And today we are going to be learning from Eugene about what are the sins in the world of knowledge management, what corporations, what knowledge managers do, and how can they start avoiding it at all costs. So we're going to try to get at least 3 sins of knowledge management, and how can we make sure we don't commit it from this conversation with Eugene. So, I was just having a conversation with Eugene just before we started recording about his background. So if you can tell our listeners about your background and how did you actually get into the whole world of knowledge management?
Yeah, so it started when I was studying my bachelor in computer science in Volgograd in south of Russia. And my topic for the bachelor thesis was how to create the pool of high potential employees. And that was the time when I first faced some terms like knowledge mapping, knowledge audit, and skill matrices. So that was really interesting. And I was so fascinated by this, by the potential this methodology brings to organizations. And also, I was amazed how many companies don't know about that at all. And that's why I was so interested in this area. And then when I moved to Moscow to study in the Higher School of Economics with my major in knowledge management, I decided that would be the topic I would start and I would explore more. And so then I started in Moscow. My master thesis was about knowledge management application for the network of 12 universities. And so it went and yeah, in 17 years I've made I hope not that much, but a few mistakes. So yeah, probably this podcast would be about my experience as well and my lessons learned.
Yeah. So, I love it when knowledge managers get into a storytelling mode. So I would request you, if you can get into a storytelling mode where if you're able to narrate one of the biggest learning incidents what you had while you were leading knowledge systems for any company, what you were working at.
Yeah, probably. I would say that it was one of the most interesting ones. And from 2016 to 2021, I was working for an oil and gas company for the upstream business of Gazprom Neft, one of the biggest Russian oil and gas companies. And we worked closely with IT department. But what we found out that we haven't anyone from the cybersecurity in our team. And that was probably the most important learning incident for us then, when we understood that we should have them on board as early as possible, because we were creating and had an idea. We developed and had several brainstorming sessions on how do we start working with the tool. And the tool was based on Microsoft technology. And that was the time when, like in a couple of years after, when we already had first initiatives and so on, the cybersecurity team, they came and said, hey, that's not the direction we're going in. You probably should have developed something on your own technology, on open libraries and open source. And that was like the huge derail for the whole project. And that was the moment when we understood that that's the type of stakeholder we really should engage as early as possible. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Got it. No, interesting. I think security folks, they are like the internal police sometimes, I think, of the organization, and to be honest, it's their job to, I think, having them on your team right from the start, I think it will be much better for a lot of folks to accelerate their ideas within the organization rather than, you know, getting them involved in the very end. And I'm sure that there would be so many corporations in the world where great ideas are not taken up because the infosec guys were involved very, very late. So interesting. You know, I want to come to mistakes, right? And I want to know from you that, you know, at different levels, right? Then there are people who are early in their career, who are fascinated by this, maybe what you were, maybe 15 years ago, 17 years ago. You know, they're very passionate about this space. Currently, 2023, so many technologies are available. What are the kind of mistakes do you think that somebody who is just entering the field of knowledge management is most prone to making, and how should they avoid it?
I would say the most popular, the most often happening mistake, and actually that was my mistake as well when I was just starting, it was like back in 2008 or 2007, was to prioritize technology over culture and over strategy and over processes. And that happens so often. We can see this everywhere. Like many companies, they say, hey, let's implement this fancy tool. It will help to solve us everything. That's the silver bullet. And it's not, unfortunately, and it will never be. So yeah, that's what happens very often.
Got it. I think young people will definitely get very excited with some good tools, good UI, and then, you know, trying to go around and wait, and then it just becomes you know, a liability for the company. I've seen also so many times where we ourselves have bought software out of enthusiasm without having a strategy in place, just because it looks nice, you're getting a good deal. So, but unfortunately, they've just been liabilities to us. You know, now I wanna understand from your perspective about, let's say, that somebody who either switches internally within the organization to knowledge management. Like a lot of times I've seen professionals who have been working in allied departments of knowledge management, and then they find this very exciting, they find this very interesting, and that's the time when they go ahead and start switching in. What are the kind of suggestions you would give to people like these who either are switching into, who have a good background in the company or in the industry, but who are kind of transitioning into this this particular role? And what are the kind of, again, mistakes they should avoid?
I would say that another mistake which I also made, and which I see very often, is to miss an opportunity to build proper stakeholder relationships. Mm-hmm. And especially to identify and to capture the time of some specifically important stakeholder who could act as a sponsor for the whole knowledge management program in the organization. Mm-hmm. And actually, talking about knowledge management program, another mistake would be to not identify the whole set of knowledge management activities as a program, and position that as a just line of business. And that is not, too often, that is not a line of business. That is a specific program which should be managed specifically. Got it.
And when we say stakeholders, can you help us understand that, you know, let's say that a strategy is put, what kind of stakeholders become very important in let's say a mid-sized manufacturing company, for example?
Of course, it depends from company to company. That would depend. But what I've seen in my experience is that specifically for manufacturing companies, there's a quality management, mm-hmm. Especially those who are working on the ISO certification, ISO 9001, with various years. And we know that in 2015 version of the ISO 9001 standard, there is a specific clause on knowledge management. And that's one of the points of collaboration between a knowledge manager and the quality managers as well. not talking about lessons learned after action reviews and all this whole scope of activities which could be worked on together.
Got it.
Another one is the change management. As many organizations they go through transformation, that definitely would be the one of the most important. If there is a change management office or a program office for this change, then this definitely is one of the most important stakeholders to work with together. As always, one of the classical ones is the human resources or talent management, talent development, learning and development. Those are the business functions which are extremely important for knowledge management as we work with learning, right? So our goal is to implement the culture of knowledge sharing and learning with guys. And of course, the IT, and when I say IT, information technology, that's of course not only guys who are responsible for digital transformation, but this also are the guys who are responsible for the infrastructure, because we as knowledge managers, we also work with technology, which support us. And it's very important to work with infrastructure, cybersecurity as well. So those are extremely important.
Got it. Got it. No, interesting. Also, I want to ask you in this regard about at what point of time does a company actually starts investing towards a change management team, a knowledge management team? Because unless and until it's like a really large corporation, like a Fortune 2000 corporation, I've not come across like mid-sized companies or early stage companies having like change management as a department. So what do you think, Eugene? At what particular stage should a company start thinking about it?
Well, my personal belief is that they should start as soon as there are at least 2 people in the organization. So that's the point where changes will inevitably start, right? There will be some discussions, there will be some work, there will be some growth. And at that point, organization already needs to think about change, about proper change management, about communication, and so on. And probably that's the ideal point to start working on change management as a specific discipline. I've seen several organizations which are more than 100,000 employees of our scale, and they, of course, they have this change management departments, the business change management, IT change management, application change management, specific ones. But also I've seen startups with the size of like 2,500 people, and there is change management there as well. And it could be it may be not that specifically positioned, but there is this function as well. And I would say that if the organization has just a couple of thousand employees, anyway, that's a big, that's not maybe that huge, like several 100,000 people, but that's big anyway. And there is this change management business function.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. Now I want to ask you the third mistake what typical people do in knowledge managers. But these are not the early stage guys. These are not the mid-level guys. These are essentially, knowledge directors, head of knowledge management, chief knowledge officers, who have a team under them, who have who have also purchased the first license of SharePoint in 2002. What are the kind of mistakes these folks are prone to from your perspective? Because they have literally seen what was a word, knowledge management, which was a buzzword 25 years ago. They possibly started their career then, and now with the advent of so many new technologies, that AI playing a very significant role. What mistakes do you think that these senior folks are most prone to?
Yeah, I would say that's these type of mistakes, they can come from experience working in one company and knowing the company really well. And that at that point of time, that may happen that the belief is that the company has reached a specific level of knowledge management maturity, while it still hasn't. And that time, it could be just this, the changes are needed from time to time. And if there are no changes in the program and over reliance on these existing processes, over reliance on people who work as well that much, and not being open to new technologies, as you said, AI and so on. So that could be that type of mistake.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thankfully, I think in our industry, most of the senior guys are they're reading a lot because they're essentially knowledge managers. So it is a rare situation, I think. But whoever yeah, if you get too comfortable in the industry, what you're working in, I'm pretty sure that, you're very, the name of our podcast is Unlearn. It will be very difficult for them to start unlearning, and they would take their processes as Bible. Interesting. Perfect. I want to understand from you my last question, actually my second last question, because there's a surprise segment also in the end, about what are the kind of key responsibilities. Let's say you are a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company and you are hiring a head of knowledge management. What kind of responsibilities would you outline for him? And what are the kind of KPIs or success metrics you would possibly attached to that person?
Yeah, starting from the last thing, the KPIs, as you definitely know, KPIs and specific metrics in knowledge management, it's extremely hard to measure.
Yeah.
So I would say that they would be more on a qualitative side than a quantitative. And talking about the responsibilities, what I would say is the first most important, specifically for me, what I see when I come to a new organization is to change culture to support knowledge-related activities. Because I strongly believe that culture is the key, right? Culture is the king. It can not only eat strategy for breakfast, it can eat anything for breakfast, right? It can just ruin the whole organization if it is wrong. So that's why the focus definitely and the top priority should be the culture. Especially now when there are so many changes, when the cultures, when any company, specifically multinational, it will be multicultural organization, right? And there will be a need for having this single unified culture. If the organization goes through mergers or acquisitions and it just acquires any other organization, that is specifically important to have this single or unified culture with a single list of values and people that really believe in and acting in accordance to them. The second one I would say is to embed the knowledge-related activities in existing processes. So again, I don't believe in the big bang implementations of any changes. That often disrupts the business processes, the businesses itself. And I believe in small steps and enabling this little knowledge-related activities in existing business processes. That definitely are those little changes which one by one, it changes the whole business and people start working differently and the culture changes actually. That really helps to change the culture, and I've seen that and I've done that. That's why I say that I strongly believe in that thing. The third one would be to adopt and adapt new methods and technologies to complement and support the knowledge management activities, because that's what it's inevitable to have these new technologies and people demanding this thing, right? Our employees, our contractors, our partners, they always demand this thing, like, do we have this new ability? What is this new capability to work? And how can we leverage that? And that's how we as knowledge management can help the whole organization. So I would say there's three: change culture, embed knowledge-related activities in existing processes, and adopt and adapt new technology.
Great. Yeah, I love this. I really like this answer. Perfect. I have a small surprise segment for you, which is a rapid fire with you. So I haven't shared these questions with you pre-hand. And I just want to get a raw opinion, a one-word answer or maximum 2 to 3 words answer about certain hot topics in our industry, in the world of knowledge management. So, Eugene, are you ready?
Yes.
On ready. Okay, perfect. I have 6 questions. Let's start off with the first one. ChatGPT, is it a hype or is it for real, which is going to impact knowledge management?
In between.
In between. Okay, great. Which country, according to you, the culture of that country really gets knowledge management, knowledge sharing out of all the countries you worked at?
Any.
Any. Okay. All right.
Every. I would say that. I would say every country.
That kills my next question, because my next question was, which country does not get the whole aspect of knowledge management? Okay. All right. Confluence, SharePoint, Coda, or Notion, your favorite knowledge documentation tool? Or if I missed out on
Any. It depends.
Okay. Which one did you use? Which one would you go and buy the first one if 4 of them were in the shelf?
Depends on the situation. Any
Okay.
depending on the situation.
Okay. All right. Next question, and my last question is that how much money should $100 million company invest in its knowledge management? $100 million company, how much should it invest in knowledge management? It's rapid fire.
100 million.
100 million, all of it. Okay, I love that answer. Great. Thank you so much, Eugene. I think this is really interesting. This is fun. So thank you so much for taking off the time and sharing it with me, with all our listeners. And I hope you also enjoyed having a conversation with me.
Thank you, Omkar. Thank you. I really love the topic and the approach you take. So thank you for inviting, and let's learn and unlearn as well. That's really important for us as knowledge managers. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.